Chairman Lewis, Chairman McDermott, Ranking Members Bustani and Linder, on behalf of our frontline hunger relief partners around Washington State and the generous volunteers and donors who make our work possible, thank you for inviting Northwest Harvest to testify before this joint subcommittee. Northwest Harvest has been fighting hunger in Washington since 1967. We are an independent statewide food bank who secure and distribute food to over 300 food pantries, meal programs, and elementary schools. In 2009 fiscal year, Northwest Harvest secured over 24 million pounds of food for distribution, a 33% increase over the previous year. We also operate one of the busiest pantries in the state, located in downtown Seattle, where we're seeing more than 2,500 visitors on our busiest days, up from a peak of 1,800 in early 2008. Many of our smaller, often rural partner programs are reporting increases of over 50%, the highest increases in demand we have ever witnessed. As unemployment remains high, unemployment benefits run out, and other critical health and human services disappear, more and more people are turning to food assistance programs with greater needs. In our 42-year history, we have never witnessed a demand for our services like we are seeing now. Hunger relief is truly a growth industry, and we are increasingly being asked to do more with less. Our food recipients and their families come from all walks of life, and many of them are newcomers pushed over the edge by the recession. Focus groups we conducted with our recipients around the state in both 2008 and 2009 provided overwhelming evidence of the increase in first-time visitors. Reports from the front lines reinforce this finding. For example, the director of the Thurston County Food Bank, located near our state capital in Olympia, reports seeing a 17% increase in new recipients, the biggest changing demographic at his pantry. Matt Campbell, the director of our own pantry in Seattle, reports seeing more and more newcomers every week, many of whom never imagined they would have needed to visit a food pantry and are experiencing a mix of anger and confusion and a general lack of knowledge about how to even access the services that are available to them. Another story from one of our partner directors in rural eastern Washington helps illustrate this point. He writes that they are, quote, still continuing to see new families, especially young families with children or older families with teenagers or grown children at home. The economy has stretched everyone thin. We recently gave a middle-aged man info on food stamps. He took it unhappily and said that he hated to even think about needing to use them. But with the economy the way it was getting too hard not to sign up for them. In addition to more new visitors, we're seeing troubling increases among our most vulnerable populations. Over half of those we serve are children and seniors. We've seen an 18% increase in infants. It is our youngest and oldest Washingtonians who are both most prone to health problems when undernourished and the least in control of their financial circumstances. And many of their circumstances have changed for the worst in the past 12 months. In our focus groups, we heard one mother say, "I will feed my children first and go hungry myself." Another single parent told us, "If I could not feed my children at home some days, at least I knew if I got them to school, they'd be fed." Across the state, we are hearing that many former donors and volunteers are now themselves experiencing situational poverty, forcing them to come to food pantries and meal programs for help. They tell us their mortgage has gone sideways, or that they lost their living wage jobs at the shipyards or lumber mills, or that they have new jobs that are so poorly paid they can't meet their own expenses. For low-income folks and those living month to month, food is often the most flexible expenditure in their budget, and so they're turning to community food assistance programs in record numbers to help make those other ends meet. Northwest Harvest is privileged to be one of the most recognizable and well-supported charities in Washington State. However, many of our partners around the state are reeling from significant decreases in public support, charitable giving, or both, limiting their ability to get hungry food to people in their communities. These programs are facing the tough choice of either serving fewer hungry people or providing less food to each hungry person who comes through their doors. Of course, as frontline charities, we rely on the generous support of our donors and volunteers. Yet charitable giving alone will not fill the hole in health and human services being left by the severe budget cuts in Washington at the state and local levels, all of which lead to a greater demand for food assistance. With an additional $115 million in SNAP food benefits and increases in both funding and commodities through TFAP, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act surely prevented a hunger disaster in Washington state. And yet, the crisis still very much exists. In written testimony provided are concrete steps Congress can take to help ease the burden on the hunger relief system, such as continuing to extend unemployment benefits until real recovery is underway, reauthorizing the Child Nutrition Act, and extending tax incentives that encourage businesses of all sizes to donate surplus food. Now more than ever, states like Washington also need strong financial support from the federal government to help us create jobs and protect important services for low-income families and individuals, as well as to ensure that important hunger relief programs are not sacrificed precisely when they are needed the most. Thank you for your time.